folks. Thanks for joining. Just wanted to let you know that we're going to start promptly at noon Eastern time. That's 9 Pacific Standard Time. So we'll just be starting in about 6 minutes. Thanks so much for hanging tight. Again, folks, we're going to get started in just a few minutes. I see more and more people popping on. Thank you for your punctuality. Just give us a few minutes for other people to hop on. Thanks. Again, folks, thanks for hopping on. We're going to get started in just a couple of minutes. And for those of you that are on, if you've got a couple of minutes and you haven't yet filled out the assessment, you should have an email from Shasta asking you to fill out a SurveyMonkey pre-webinar assessment. We really appreciate your input and feedback on that.
And actually it's 9 o'clock, so I think that in the interest of time, we want to go ahead and get started. So those of you who can see us, we do have our webcams on, and I just accidentally lowered my seat, so now you can only see half my face. So hold on a second. Okay, better. So good morning or good afternoon, as the case may be, everyone. My name is Shasta Gaughan, and I am the Environmental Director at the Paula Band of Mission Indians, which is located in northern San Diego County, California. And it's a beautiful day. I hope you all are having gorgeous weather as well. And I'm very excited that you have joined us. And with me is Angie Hacker. I'm going to let her go ahead and introduce herself.
Hi all, Angie Hacker. I'm actually talking to you from Connecticut today, and you'll be hearing a lot from me. We're going to introduce ourselves more in just a moment.
Right. So again, thank you all for being here. If you haven't had a chance to fill out that pre-assessment, you don't have to do it right this second now that we've started, but we would like you to take some time to fill that out. That really helps us, and it helps you determine what we need to know and how we want to move forward with some of the information we'll be providing over these next 10 webinar sessions. Angie, what do you want to add to our introduction?
Well, welcome everybody. We're really happy you're here with us. Just a couple of housekeeping items. If you're new to GoToWebinar, we do want to make sure that you know how to use some basic functionality. It's new to a lot of people, so don't feel bad. I do want to point out a couple of features. So your control panel should be hovering on the right. If you see a little orange arrow, you can press that and it will pop it back out so you can see all the functions you have access to. And so you should be able to turn on or off your webcam. You could turn on or off your audio. Keep your audio on. If you can go ahead and mute yourself, that would be really helpful. We are going to ask that during the course of the webinar today that you ask questions via chat. And at the end, actually, we'll do some introductions in a bit, so we'll unmute you. And then at the end, we'll have time for some out loud questions. We do want this to be interactive, so please do chat your questions, even if they're technical. You also have the ability to raise your hand, and so that will give us a chance to know that you have a question too. Okay, so if you have any other questions on technical issues that you might be having, just go ahead and chat them, and we'll see if we can resolve that for you.
So all of that is going to be on that right-hand control panel. There's a little hand icon you can click on to raise your hand. There's the chat box where you can ask questions, and if you haven't done this before, it's pretty intuitive, and you will get used to it. It will get easier as time goes by. So for this first session, this is primarily an introduction. We want to introduce you to what we are going to be doing over these 10 sessions, and obviously it's about climate and health adaptation. And over the course of these 10 hours together through now to December, we hope that we give you the tools that you need to start building your own vulnerability assessments and your own adaptation plans that integrate a health aspect to them, because as we all know, health is just as important to the climate change adaptation strategy as doing things for the environment and drought planning and temperature planning and all those things. All of those things affect human health. So that's really what we're here for. That is our purpose in this training. It would be awesome if we could all be together and do this in person. And we did have that opportunity with some folks who came to our in-person training, which was in June. And it was great to be able to have people in the room together over the course of, 2.5 days to be able to do this in person. But that's not possible for everybody, which is why we have this webinar series. We want to be able to help you build your own capacity for climate change vulnerability assessment and adaptation planning. And to do that, we need the knowledge, we need to be ready, and we need to be able to consider all of those different things that are part of the climate change impact process how are we going to learn and build a community together? And that's another thing we're hoping to achieve through this, is having a listserv, having the opportunity to talk to one another twice a month as we go through these different trainings. I'm really hoping that we can build that collaborative community where you can even reach out to somebody who might be close to you, or somebody who's done an adaptation plan that sounds like what you want to do, and be able to work together, because there's no reason for us to feel alone in this process. We are not alone. We're all together. And as we maybe wake up each morning and see kind of alarming news, I just read a headline about how July turns out to be the hottest July recorded in human history globally. Those are some scary things. But I think if we come together as a community and we know that we're all out there working together to try to mitigate these impacts and adapt to these impacts, it's better for all of us. And I could go on and on about this stuff, but we only have an hour. Angie, what do you want to add?
So this is a 10-part series that's going to explore climate change and its impacts and how to adapt to it in the context of really a diverse pool of tribal and indigenous definitions of health. And so we're going to get more into how we're defining all of these topics in the course of the next couple of webinars. But we also just want to kick off by mentioning this is all part of a context that also includes tribal self-determination, rights, history, laws, traditional knowledges, and cultural practices. So these are all getting woven in to what will be a focus on climate change and health. And so since Shasta already sort of mentioned the urgency of this matter, I just want to point out and sort of start off by saying that it was just this May that one of the premier medical journals actually made this a giant issue for them in one of their recent editions. And so the title is Limiting Global Warming to 1.5 to 2, a unique and necessary role for health professionals. And just to point out a couple of the quotes from this medical journal, they say this moment is one of extraordinary consequence. And it basically says that if we're not going to act, that we could possibly experience catastrophic health impacts as a result of climate change, and that health professionals can make a critical difference. And so I know some folks on the phone might be different kinds of professionals. You might have a limited role in health, or you might be a health professional. So I actually want to stop here and actually give you a chance to fill out a quick poll, because I'd like to know more about who's with us today. And so we have a poll, and it's going to populate up for you right now. And if you just take a few seconds to just tell us what kind of professional you are, and then we're going to sort of instantly show you the poll results, just so you know who's in the room. And so your options are sustainability, climate, or environmental professional, health professional, emergency professional, administrative or executive professional, or other.
And this is also our opportunity to make sure that you're actually paying attention to the webinar and not doing what I know we all do, put on the webinar and then do other work in the background. No, we're going to make you pay attention.
So while you're finishing up this poll, we'll just kind of continue. I know that a lot of folks with us today, I hope, and I do believe, are an Indigenous person or a member of an Indigenous community, staff of an Indigenous community. And, this may not be news to you. We think, looking at Indigenous science and traditional knowledges has provided evidence of our worsening planetary health for generations. What we're seeing is Western science is sort of now catching up, and it's becoming clear that climate change is one of the biggest risks to global health. For some reason, what we're seeing is that a lot of communities, while they may be starting to adapt to climate change, are not necessarily planning for the health impacts of climate change. And so that's part of why we're doing this training, because if you don't have a specific focus on health, you may end up with blind spots in your climate planning and maybe too little attention, effort, or investment into the health protections that you will perhaps in the future wish you had prepared for. And so we're going to get into all more details of how to actually prepare for these impacts in just a moment. Let me actually go ahead and share these results with you. Still collecting, and I'm going to go ahead and close the poll and share the results. Let's see. Looks to me like we mainly have sustainability, climate, and environmental professionals. 6% of you are health professionals, and 21% of you are other. So I'm thinking we might have some maybe consultants in the room, But this is good, and actually we'll be tapping into some of your own expertise as we continue along here. All right. One thing we do like to do in the beginning of our trainings, and we've done lots of trainings by now. We've presented to almost 600 or over 600 people, but this is our first webinar. What we want to do is just take some time to actually tap into what we've learned from some emerging wellness strategies, some best practices out there. So some of what we're seeing is that the literature is telling us that preparing for our psychosocial well-being might be some of the best things we can do to invest our time in advance of some of the climate impacts that we're going to be discussing over the course of this training. So what this topic, it can be kind of heavy and a little bit scary. It's not just talking about polar bears anymore. We're talking about impacts on our well-being, our neighbors, our families, and almost every aspect of our livelihood. And so that's sort of overwhelming. So what we want to do just in the beginning here is just take a moment to get sort of here together, to get calm, centered, and connected. And this is sort of building on an evidence-based practice that says that if we can build psychosocial resilience, we will actually be in a better position to be more connected and recover better in the event of a climate emergency or event. Okay, so first thing we want to do, we just want to take about 15 seconds and pause. So if you can bear with us, we're just kind of, I'm actually going to close my eyes and we're sort of regulate the biological health part of ourselves for about 15 seconds. Close your eyes and we're just going to do a little bit of deep breathing. And if you have another cultural practice that helps you calm and center, feel free to engage that. And as you breathe out, if you notice any tense part of your bodies that you're holding on to, you just want to release. Okay, one last breath. Okay. Thank you all. So part of what the literature is telling us also is that for ourselves, it's really helpful to get calm and centered in any situation, including an emergency or disaster, but also to be connected. Better social and community cohesion certainly leads to better results in terms of recovery and resilience. And so if you wouldn't mind, we're actually just going to move right into our introductions. In person, there's lots of really cool things to do to build community cohesion. It's a little harder to do over a webinar with limited time. So for now, we're going to introduce ourselves, and then there'll be an opportunity to introduce yourself. And we do hope to get to know you as well as we can over a webinar over the course of these 10 series. So Shasta, go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit in more detail.
Well, hello again. I'm just looking at that picture of myself, and I think one of you who is on the webinar right now, Karen Cosetto, was with me when that photograph was taken. So hi, Karen. I am very happy to be here, and I am happy to share with you the work that I have done for the Paula Band of Mission Indians. I am an anthropologist by training, a cultural anthropologist. And I have worked at Paula since 2005, so going on 15 years, but had done research with the community for about 5 years previous to that. So I have about 20 years of experience here in Paula. I've been the head of the environmental department since 2010, and I'm also the tribal historic preservation officer. So I have those two hats that I have to wear, although essentially they're just one really giant hat, like the kind that you see at the opening day at the racetrack, you know, big crazy hat. Because the cultural and the environmental, to me, cannot be separated. You have to integrate both of those things, especially when you are doing tribal adaptation planning. There is no sense in which the environment is not also deeply intertwined with culture. So being both the TIPO and the environmental director actually makes a lot of sense, and there is a lot of overlap and synergies within those two parts of my job. And I have a staff here who helps me, and I have worked for years now with Angie and with Prosper Sustainably. So I'm going to let her go ahead and introduce herself.
So again, Angie Hacker with Prosper Sustainably. We're a consulting firm that works with many tribes all over the country and other communities as well. And I love communities. I've been working with them and serving them for almost 20 years in the areas of sustainability, climate, community health, energy, transportation. Previous roles include state and local government and nonprofit roles, most recently as Division Chief of Sustainability for the County of Santa Barbara, and also taught some courses, some extension courses at UC Santa Barbara. In the last several years, I've spent a lot of my time helping and working with tribes to prepare and adapt for the impacts of climate change, and love working with Shasta and Paula. They're really national leaders here on the Tribal Climate Health Project. It's one of my favorite projects. I'm excited to share our learnings with you and learn from you to help us all reach our adapted futures. So to me, all of this is really personal. Climate changes lives. I have a 2-year-old and a little family, and in our family travels, we've experienced fires, hurricanes, flooding. We were just in Alaska and saw glacier loss. And in some cases, we've experienced some emergency situations that have certainly left an imprint on us. The stress of those events, I think, has changed us, and we don't sort of count on normal anymore. And you may be experiencing the same kinds of things in your community. So Shasta, can you tell us a little bit more about Paula?
Yes, so I mentioned as we started that the Paula Band of Mission Indians is located in northern San Diego County, California. We are about 40 to 50 miles inland from the Pacific coast, and we are a relatively small tribe by national standards and pretty good sized by Southern California standards. Just to clarify, I am not myself a tribal member, but as I said, I've worked for the tribe for 15 years and 2 decades, including my research. So I know a lot about the community and have learned a lot about what it means to be a member in this particular region and the particular climate and environmental issues that we need to deal with. So we have about 900 tribal members here. Living in an arid region of California where we have some very specific issues, but that issues that a lot of you probably share, concerns about drought, concerns about wildfire, that everybody knows California is no longer subject to a fire season. It's just fire season all the time now. Concerns about high temperature. But interestingly for Paula, not so much of a concern about rising sea levels, which is what a lot of people think about when they think of climate change in a coastal region like California. But when you're 50 miles inland, sea level rise is not the first priority on your mind. And then a lot of our tribal members are also concerned about the impacts of climate change on cultural practices and traditions, what the impacts might be on some of our cultural sites, due to erosion or destruction by fire, those sorts of things. So we have about 1,000 tribal members here, and they are my responsibility as far as environmental planning and climate adaptation is concerned. We've been fortunate to be able to get some funding from various sources. This project started with a 5-year EPA grant that was awarded in, I think it was summer of 2016, or 2015 rather. So we were able to get funding for fiscal year 16. And then at the end of close to the end of that fiscal year, there was a change in the administration. Trump was elected, and subsequently, the 4 remaining years of our grant were not funded. So we had to reach out and find funding in other places, and that included the National Indian Health Board. We were fortunate to get some BIA adaptation grants so that we were able to continue this work of developing what you're seeing here today, the Tribal Climate Health Project. And increase our ability and overall nationally tribes' ability to increase their capacity for adaptation planning. Angie, you want to do the rest?
Yeah, so Paul has really become a national leader in developing climate and health adaptation materials. So they're doing it for themselves in-house. We went through a process of completing our own vulnerability assessment and adaptation plan. And that was really ground truthing the frameworks and the information that we're building in the other side, the Tribal Climate Health Project. So we're really fortunate to have the NIHB funding that gave us an ability to complete our own work on the ground, as well as the federal funding to help us with our Tribal Climate Health Project, developing curriculum, tools, templates, a website. We have a resource clearinghouse with over 500 resources that are specific to tribal climate health, and all of these tools that are really ideally aimed at getting to your adapted future easier, less time consuming, and hopefully help you overcome some of the obstacles that a lot of communities face in getting there. So we're excited to share all of these with you. Like I said, we've done a lot of training so far. This is our first webinar, but we're excited to be building a learning community, which is our long-term goal. And, you know, I do want to say that the research and adaptation work that we've done to get to this point with Paula has involved reviewing the latest Western science, data, literature, best practices on all the ways that climate change is going to impact nearly every aspect of our life, and pairing that with Indigenous knowledge and what Indigenous people have observed and known for decades. And so for tribes, we know that these impacts include, you know, threats to sovereignty, culture, and traditional ways of life. And we believe that all of these things are integral to preserving tribal health. And so that's why we built this project, is to do this in a way that tribes can really feel is meaningful and resonates with them. Okay, so we want to talk about you. Let's get connected with you. We know some things about you already. You answered a poll. We also know that around between 50 and 70 people have registered on Eventbrite and then come through and registered through the webinar, GoToWebinar. So, and we see people representing a lot of different tribes from around the country and tribal serving organizations. Some of you, I think 25 or so far, have completed the pre-assessment. Thank you for doing that. We want everybody to complete it because it'll help us compare before and after results and just get a gauge on who's here. You guys have done a pretty good job, 75% on all the quiz questions, and we learned something about how your confidence level on your current knowledge. And so your current confidence level, knowledge on climate change, you on average rated yourselves a 3.9 out of 5. On health, and your knowledge on health impacts of climate change is a 3.6 out of 5. Feel a little less knowledgeable, 2.7 out of 5 on how to assess your community's vulnerability to climate change and health impacts, and then a little bit less still on how to complete an adaptation plan to build resilience against those vulnerabilities. And so that's helpful for us to know, and really our goal in this training is to raise all of those numbers by the end so that you feel really confident in your ability to do the work to get adapted. So I'm going to go ahead and unmute the line, and here's how we're going to do your introductions. There are 43 people right now on the webinar, so we don't have time to go into a lot of detail for folks. If you can help us be brief, that would be great. I'm going to go ahead and unmute everybody, but please introduce yourself when I call your name, or Shasta, actually, you're going to do that, right? You're going to call names, and we only like you to just speak up. Tell us your title, organization, and what state you're in.
Right. So I'm going to do these in alphabetical order by first name. So when you hear your name, just tell us. Well, first of all, correct my pronunciation because I know I'm not going to get these all right. So tell us your name, what organization you work for, and in what capacity, and what state or province you are in. So let's start with Amber Nashoba.
I'm Amber Nashoba. I'm in Alaska, and I'm looking for work up here. So I'm a biologist, ecologist, such. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Amber. And next we have Andrew Toffelmeyer. And according to my screen here, it says he can't be unmuted until he enters his PIN. So Andrew, I don't know if you're able to speak. I guess not.
I see a gov.bc.ca.
Well, welcome from Canada then. I'm assuming BC stands for British Columbia and not beautiful coffee or something like that. All right, thank you, Andrew. We'll try to get you to introduce yourself if you can get unmuted at some point. Next we have Anya Meave. Anya, are you there? It looks like Anya, it says she is self-muted.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you. Go ahead, Anya.
Oh no, I didn't have any questions. I just joined. Sorry.
Oh, we're going through introductions, so just tell us your name, your organization, your title, and where you are.
Oh, okay. My name is Anya, and I'm in San Diego, California. I'm currently just a student at Oregon State University, and so I found this online, and I found it of interest because I'm looking to be an anthropologist.
Oh, yay! I'm an anthropologist. Okay, well let's talk offline because we're both in San Diego.
Okay, good. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Anya. All right, next we have Ashley Ringwood.
Hi, my name is Ashley Ringwood. I'm from northern New Mexico, and I'm a health promotion specialist for Department of Health.
Great, thank you, Ashley. And how about Aurora Valdez? You are self-muted, Aurora. Aurora, are you there? Okay, maybe we'll come back to Aurora. How about Caressa Nguyen?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, Hi, my name is I'm from I'm with the Iowa Band of Eagle Indians, is who I'm enrolled with, but I'm currently working with the Tulalip tribe on indoor air quality. But it's my last, so then I'll be traveling for a while. Is what I'll get into. I'm still a student. I'm finishing my education.
Okay, we got some of that. I think you might be on a bad connection, but we might have to try again with you. But I think I got Miwok, so that's good. All right, how about Caroline Chen? Caroline, I think you're self-muted.
She asked if we could respond by chat. So if folks are having trouble with their microphone, that's fine too. Go ahead and introduce yourself over chat.
Yeah, so Caroline, we'll let you go ahead and do that, and we'll move on to Carolyn Smith. Carolyn, you are also self-muted.
Okay, here we go. Good morning. I'm Carolyn Smith. I'm a postdoctoral fellow at UC Berkeley in the Department of Ethnic Studies. I'm also an anthropologist by training, and of course, I'm here in sunny California.
All right, thank you so much. And just FYI for the rest of you, be ready to unmute yourself because I think a lot of you are self-muted. So let's move on to Craig Brown.
Yep. Hi, Craig Brown here. In a few weeks, I'll be starting a job with Vancouver Coastal Health, located in Vancouver, BC, and I'm a climate change adaptation planner.
Great. I'm jealous. I love Vancouver, so I let me know if you have any job openings. Just kidding. All right, Dawn Winalski.
Hi, Dawn Winalski. I'm an attorney at the law firm Hofstrauss, Dean and Walker. So we do mostly Indian law.
Great, thank you, Dawn. Welcome. And now, Deborah Butler. Deborah, you are self-muted. Nope. All right, we gotta get through this quickly, so I'm gonna move on to Emily Wasley.
Hi, this is Emily Wasley. I work for the Cadmus Group here in Oakland, California, and I'm our Director of Sustainability and Climate Resilience. I also lead a personal resilience group through the American Society of Adaptation Professionals, ASAP, which goes and focuses on how we can enhance the psychosocial understanding of climate change.
Oh, excellent.
Emily, I'm on that work group too, and I'm presenting tomorrow. Yay.
Yay, thanks, Angie.
All right, great. We're glad to have you, Emily. All right, let's move on to Haley Case Scott. Are you there, Haley? Looks like you've got a question for us. She says, I can't call in right now. My name is Haley Case Scott. I work for the Pacific Northwest Tribal Climate Change Project at the University of Oregon as a resource assistance program intern through the Forest Service and Northwest Climate Hub. So great. All right, how about Hope Reedon? Are you there, Hope? All right, maybe we can come back to Hope. Let's move on to Iris Chi. Iris, you're on the phone, so if you might be muted on your phone if you want to unmute.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi.
Hi, my name is Iris Chi, and I'm a regional planner with Los Angeles County Department of Regional Planning here in California.
Great, thank you, Iris. And how about Jamie Yazzie?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So my name is Jaime Yazzie. I work for the National Tribal Air Association here in Flagstaff, Arizona. I also do a lot of research into the Navajo Forest. So thanks for having us on.
Okay, and thank you for clarifying. Jaime, not Jamie. Thank you. All right, Julie Tolme.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, my name is Julie Tolme. I'm a student at the University of Washington and an intern working on tribal climate adaptation at the EPA.
Great, thank you, Julie. I'm excited to hear so many students. That's awesome. And okay, this one's going to be a challenge for me, so I'm just going to say it the way it looks. Jyoti Upadhyaya. How'd I do?
You did great. So thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Jyoti Upadhyay, and I work for British Columbia's Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. And as a program lead, we support a lot of infrastructure projects in indigenous communities. And I'm also interested to learn about the health aspects of infrastructure resiliency because I'm an infrastructure engineer, so I know the vulnerability and resiliency for infrastructure side of things. And I'm looking forward to know about the health aspects. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. All right, my buddy, Karen Cozzetto, you're on.
Hi, Shasta. Hi, everyone. This is Karen Cozzetto, and I'm one of the co-managers of the climate change program at the Institute for Tribal Environmental Professionals, and really excited to be here. So thank you.
Thanks, Karen. Well, tell us where you are.
Very important. I'm in Colorado. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Karen. All right, Christy Signer.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Christy Signer. I'm a climate change adaptation policy analyst with the Ministry of Forests, Lands, Natural Resource Operations, and Rural Development in Victoria, British Columbia.
And Christy, I have a quick question. How often do people mispronounce that last name and say Signer instead of Signer?
Nearly every time.
Okay, good. Then I don't feel so bad.
No, don't worry at all. Thank you.
Thanks, Christy. All right, Lachelle Thomas, you are self-muted. Lachelle, are you there? Okay, we might have to try again with Lachelle later. How about Larissa Ritzman? Let's see, Larissa has typed in her response. Larissa Ritzman, Director of Natural Resources and Water Department for the Shoalwater Bay Indian Tribe in Washington. Thank you, Larissa. Next we have Levi Anderson.
Hi, I'm Levi Anderson. I'm an environmental specialist with the 29 Palms Band of Mission Indians in Southern California.
Hi, Levi, and hello. I just saw you a few days ago.
Good.
All right, Lisa Montgomery, you're actually on here 3 times, so unless there are 3 Lisa Montgomerys, I'm just going to let you introduce yourself once.
Hi, well, this is the first Lisa Montgomery. I'm the Environmental Director for Sac and Fox Nation of Missouri in Kansas and Nebraska.
Great. Welcome from the middle of the country, beautiful Kansas.
Thank you.
And just in case, is there another Lisa Montgomery that I'm missing? Just coincidentally, let me see. Doesn't look like it. Okay. How about Marianne Weston? Marianne Brorup Weston.
Hi there. Yeah, this is Marianne. I live in Northwest British Columbia. I'm a grant writer and I work for the Niska Village of Gitwin-Silk and for the Nuxalk Nation as on all kinds of projects, including climate action.
Great, thank you. And actually, here what I'm seeing, we've got 3 Lisa Montgomerys, but it looks like one of the Lisa Montgomerys is actually Mark Junker with the Sac and Fox Nation of Missouri and Kansas and Nebraska. He works on brown fields and tribal response. So thank you, Mark, for putting that in the question box for us. Next, Marissa Villarreal. Marissa, are you there? Okay, I'm not hearing Marissa, so I'm going to move on to Michael Chacon. Michael? They've got the little warning sign next to them that says not attentive. Uh-oh.
His email address ends in San Pueblo, so not sure what.
So there's New Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
All right, how about Nestoria Wright? Nestoria, are you there? Self-muted? All right, I'm going to move on because we're going to run short on time here.
A little intermission really quick, Shasta, just to let people know we're only going to do these introductions on this first webinar. And so we just want to know who's here and get a feel for where people are at, but we won't be doing this on our other 1-hour webinars because it takes a while.
Yeah, we just want people to hear each other's voices for the first time. So how about Najoni Woody? Oh, it looks like Najoni has, oh, she says, I believe I'm the 3rd Lisa Montgomery, but actually you're not. You've got your own name on here. It says, Najoni Woody, I am the Water Quality Coordinator for the Sac and Fox Nation of Missouri in Kansas and Nebraska. But Najoni, I've got you unmuted if you want to actually say hello. Okay. We're almost through the list. Norma Linda. Whoa, Norma Linda.
Hi.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
My name's Norma Linda Enos Sydney. I'm an architectural designer for Salt Lake from the Maricopa Indian community in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Great, thank you. Welcome from Scottsdale.
Oral Salters has provided us a online introduction.
Okay, so he says he apologizes, no mic on his desktop. I'm Oral Salters and work with the National Tribal Brownfields Working Group at Kansas State University. All right, how about Paige Hinkst? Paige, you are self-muted. No? No, Paige?
Yes, hi, sorry. It wouldn't let me unmute. My name's Paige Hinks, and I'm with the Santee Sioux Nation, and I'm the Tribal Response Program Manager, and we are located in Northeast Nebraska.
All right, thank you. And how about Peary White?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Peary White, and I am Peoria Indian, a member of the Tribe of Indians of Oklahoma. And I'm currently a California NARC student at UCSD in the Master of Public Health program. And I work as a research assistant here on the Rincon Reservation at Indian Health Council.
Great. You are literally like 7 miles from me right now. So that's great. I'm glad there's some local folks.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Now let's move on to Ravathi Veria. Ravathi, are you there? Oh, okay. No, yes, I heard you. Are you there?
Yes, hi.
Hi.
I'm Revati, and I work as an urban planner in AECOM in Dallas, Texas.
Great, thank you. All right, just three or just a few more. Sarah Papanikolaou, how'd I do?
Pretty good. Hi, this is Sarah Papanikolaou. I am a grad student at Johns Hopkins in the Energy and Climate Policy program, and I'm doing that through distance learning, so I'm actually based just outside Seattle, Washington.
Great, welcome. All right, how about Sarah Sherwood? Are you with
Hi,
us,
I'm
Sarah?
Sarah Sherwood. I'm the environmental coordinator for the village of Gulkana up in Alaska.
Wow, Alaska. All right, welcome. Shalini Cannon.
Hi, I'm Shalini Kannan. I'm with the California State Coastal Conservancy based in Oakland.
All right, hello. Teresa Romero.
Hi, everyone. I hope you can hear me. This is Teresa Romero. I'm with the Santinez Band of Chumash Indians. I'm an environmental specialist. I'm currently working on a vulnerability assessment throughout Chumash traditional territory, which is about 7,000 square miles. So it's quite a piece of, it's a lot of work, and we hope to be done in about 2 months on our draft assessment. And then we'll move on to the planning portion of our work. And I'm glad to be here.
Great, thanks, Teresa.
Hi, Teresa.
Hi.
All right, Trisha Frank. Trisha, you are self-muted. Oh, Trisha just says she doesn't, or she just, let's see, what did she say? Trisha Frank, Natural Resources Coordinator, Manzanita Band of the Kumeyaay Nation, California. So that's down near the border of California and San Diego County. Tylo Kennedy.
Tylo Kennedy, the environmental technician for Koa Cooperative in Southeast Alaska.
Hello. And last but certainly not least, Whitney Brennan. Oh, Whitney has also typed in, and she says, Whitney Brennan is a senior environmental scientist from the California Tahoe Conservancy in South Lake Tahoe, California. And she says, we are helping to lead the development of the Lake Tahoe Climate Adaptation Action Plan. All right,
Cool.
Great. Thank you, everybody. I know that was a little bit onerous, but we've heard each other's voices, or at least heard where we're all from. So thank you so much, and we're going to move on to the next thing.
Okay, great. I just love hearing from all of you, and we have such a good showing. I wish I could meet you all in person, maybe someday. I do want to start again here by just recognizing we're from all over the place. We have a great representation from all over the country and a really good showing, surprisingly, from Canada. So we welcome our Canadian cousins in. Taking a moment just to recognize that we are all experiencing climate change in different ways, and it's going to change our well-being and health differently in different places. And so just some examples. These are just a sampling of what we'll talk more about in the training. But in the Pacific Northwest and Great Lakes, we hear a lot about impacts to fish, food, and forests. In Alaska, the coastal tribes are experiencing thawing, erosion, impacts to their hunting practices. In Navajo, they're experiencing heat and water insecurity. Mojave, they're experiencing a shrinking river, which has impacts on their spirituality. In Florida, we're hearing stories of hurricanes and sea level rise. The Lakota in South Dakota, they just experienced a bomb cyclone, which became an emergency, and they needed to tap into outside resources in order to recover and severe long-term flooding. Paula, you've already heard, the main impacts we saw in their vulnerability assessment were heat, drought, floods, and fire. And so these impacts are going to be different. The literature does a pretty good job of talking to us about how regions are experiencing climate change differently. And we're going to make sure that we try to tailor this so that you know what your region might be able to anticipate. Let's talk a little bit about the training. And so the rest of this webinar today, we're just going to be kind of giving you the structure of the training and then prepping ourselves for the next one, which will be in a couple of weeks. But our objectives for this webinar series are to help you gain a basic understanding of climate change science and projected impacts. From what the survey says, some of you know a lot about that already. Some of you, a few of you may not be familiar with it at all. We'll spend a little time on just the basics. We'd like you to be able to clearly communicate the linkages between human health and climate change to tribal leaders and other community members. We'd like you to feel like you have a working knowledge of climate change health impacts and the strategies that are being used to address them. And at the end, we hope you possess knowledge, skills, and tools, which we will provide to you, that are needed to develop a climate change vulnerability assessment in tribal communities with a specific focus on health, and also a climate change adaptation plan, and then how to implement that climate change adaptation plan and evaluate it and update it over time. And then finally, we'd like you to understand where to go for additional relevant information, tools, and resources. And so after each of these subsequent webinars, we are going to have a pretty good list of resources for you so you can do additional learning. So let's talk just briefly about the training schedule. This is on the website where you registered as well, so you can always go back and look at it. Today was the first out of 10 webinars. We're going to go all the way through mid-December. It will be the first and third Tuesdays of the month at the same time. The next one we will do will focus on climate change and health. That's what we consider module 1. We're going to try to bring in a public health guest speaker. And the next one we'll talk about an introduction to the changing exposures and impacts in general. So that'll be an introduction. And then we're going to go into each of the exposure areas. So I'm going to take a minute to just curve over to the right of the screen. This is the framework that we built with the Tribal Climate Health Project that's really driving the structure of this training and also drives the structure of some of the tools and templates that we've built for you. But it's a recognition of the cascading impacts of climate change, which result in primary and secondary exposures. And so the training is really structured by these top exposures. So the primary exposures that the literature talks about are in 5 categories: temperature extremes, wildfire, storms and flooding, drought, and melting ice and sea level rise. All of you in different parts of the country are going to find at least some of these relevant, if not all of them. And so for September 3rd through September 17th, and October 1st, we're going to be spending time diving into each of these exposure areas. And when we do that, we're going to talk about these cascading secondary exposures, which include worsened air quality, vector changes, water insecurity, and food insecurity. And we're going to talk about how, what impacts those present to communities. We're going to be focusing mainly on health and social environment, but we're also going to talk about natural environment and built environment a bit, because to do a comprehensive adaptation plan, you're really looking at all of those things. Under health and social environment, so we define in the Tribal Climate Health Project health and social in 3 sort of main categories: human health, cultural, spiritual health, and socioeconomic health. And so we're going to focus on those areas as we walk through each of these exposures to talk about how your community in your region may be experiencing the impacts. And then throughout this training, we're going to talk about strategies. So really, all the work here for communities is, at the end of the day, to make the best decisions based on your values to arrive at strategies that can actually protect the assets that your community really values. And assets can be anything from resources to values to people to anything that you guys consider really important and potentially of concern. And so that we'll take ourselves through those exposures, and then in mid-October, October 15th, we dive into vulnerability assessments. And so we'll spend 2 sessions on that, how basically to conduct a vulnerability assessment that includes a health focus. And in November 19th and December 3rd, we're going to talk about adaptation plans and how to go through the steps of completing an adaptation plan. All of these are going to involve looking at examples, and so we may actually be reaching out to some of you to share your examples if you've done some of this work, and we'll be sharing whatever examples we were able to find online and through our vast network of people we've been working on this curriculum. We're bringing in a few guest speakers as well, so we're looking forward to mixing things up a little bit and bringing in some additional expertise. And then finally, the last session is going to be their closing, where we talk about implementation and evaluation and close out our training. So that's the plan for our next 5 months together, and we're looking forward to getting to know you. A little bit more about the training, just some more logistics, I suppose, before starting the training. So maybe once we're done here today, make sure you took that pre-assessment. If it sounds like you've already registered on GoToMeeting webinar, if you're already here. And if you could, there's a function you can actually add the trainings to your calendar. That will help make sure that you're reminded when these things are coming. Shasta told me yesterday that if you do add them to your calendar, there's a wonky thing that happened. It only takes the first of the month, the first webinar of the month. So you may have to manually add in the third week. So every other, but we're going to look into that a little bit more and see if we can just send out another meeting request for that to make sure it's on your calendar. So before each webinar, what we're asking for you to do from this point forward, or just suggesting that you complete a reading that's going to help you really absorb the information we're going to go over a little bit better. And so I have one to share with you today. During each webinar, just make sure that you're muted, share your experiences and knowledge with others. So in the future, there'll be opportunities for group discussion. You can always chat and ask questions. And then we will have opportunities too for activities where there'll be a little bit more interaction. And so those will come in future webinars. And please do ask questions whenever you'd like using the chat or question function. After each module, we'll be sending out a follow-up email. You can review the resources that we provide, and if you could, we actually would like you to complete a section of the training companion form. If you look at your handout section on your control panel, the GoToWebinar control panel, you have a handout. That handout you can download. It's called the Workshop Companion Form. We're not going to go over it today because it'll be more helpful next time to go over it. We're going to go and complete a small section of questions after each module. So next one will be module 1. You'll complete the workshop companion form questions for that. And the point of it is to just help make all of this really real and capture some of your thoughts as we go through relevant information for you so you can think about how to apply it at your own community. After the training, we're going to do a post-assessment that's similar to the pre-assessment, just we're gauging changes. And then there'll be opportunities to join our Tribal Climate Health ongoing learning community, which we're really excited about. That's our long-term goal, to continue to bring folks together, tribal folks together, to share knowledge peer-to-peer and continue learning. And then anytime, feel free to contact me or Shasta with questions. And in the follow-up email to this webinar, we're actually going to connect you with other participants through a cohort listserv. And so you'll have the opportunity in between to share information, announcements, questions, and talk to each other. Okay, so that's most of what we're here to talk about today. Just to wrap up, we just again want to thank you for being part of our training community. We are so thankful for you to bring your knowledge and questions with you. The suggested reading for our next webinar is actually the 4th National Climate Assessment, Chapter 2 of the 4th National Climate Assessment, and that's called Our Changing Climate, and it's really just a basic overview from really recently, just last year, of how our climate is changing in the United States. And so it's pretty short, but it's really good, and that will kind of do some of the work for us in terms of some of the basic climate change information. And it's also something good to know about. Just this 4th National Climate Assessment is a key document that's got a lot of facts that you are free to share other chapters with whoever you need to if you're trying to express the urgency of climate change to anyone. So we'll send that out as a link in our follow-up email. And the next webinar will be August 20th, same time. You should have a link from your GoToWebinar registration already. We'll be sending reminders as well. And again, that will be on Climate Change and Health 101. So we're going to do the basics of tying these two things together, climate change and health. And with that, Shasta, do you have anything else to say wrapping up? We're going to do some questions.
I'll encourage you to visit the Tribal Climate Health Project website, which is tribalclimatehealth.org. And this information will be there, things like the reading and the workshop companion form, but we'll also email those to you so they're easy for you to find. And I think in the 5 minutes we have remaining, first of all, just thank you for your patience going through the logistics and the introductions. We just wanted to get that opportunity to hear voices and let you know how this is going to go. It's just like the first day of school in a lot of ways. So those students out there, you know what that feels like. And just if you have any questions, you can type them into the question box now or raise your hand and we can unmute you so you can ask the question verbally. I see a couple of questions. So I had one from Amber Nishoba. So Amber made a great suggestion. She asked if we could have a hashtag for this series. So we don't actually have a Twitter account, but we do have Facebook. We have Instagram, right?
LinkedIn.
And YouTube. But you know what? I can start a Twitter account, but she says that I suggested the hashtag tribal climate health, and she tweeted it out. So hooray, we've got our first social media interaction. So
cool, thank you.
And then a question from Shalini, and I think I said that wrong. I know you introduced yourself, so I'm sorry if I said that wrong, your name. But she wanted to know if we're going to be sharing the slides with the cohort.
We are. Yes, we'll send a link to all the slides as well in our follow-up email.
And we're also recording this, which we probably should have said in the beginning. But the only people whose faces are being recorded are Angie and me. So, you know, my lipstick's good. It's all fine. So we will have these recorded for you to take a look at later, or in the event that there are any of the sessions that you're not able to participate in. But that being said, please don't take that as permission to just watch the recordings later instead of participating, because the ability to interact in real time is important. All right, I'm not seeing any other hands or anybody asking to, oh, wait, I see Norma Linda. So Norma Linda, I'm going to unmute you. Go ahead.
Yes, I was late a little bit because of, I just wanted to alert people that the appointment didn't consider the time zones. So
could you speak up a little? We're having some trouble hearing.
I'm sorry. I was late to the meeting because my Outlook had switched the time zones, so I just wanted to alert anybody else if they had that problem.
Outlook switched the time zone on you?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so you may have to be careful of those automatically generated Outlook calendars to make sure that you set it for your specific time zone. So we're 9 a.m. in Alaska, 10 a.m. in Pacific, and on from there. You guys all know your own time zone. I'm not going to reveal my ignorance by getting them wrong. It's daylight time right now, Pacific Daylight Time. So if you're in Arizona, I think we're on the same time zone right now. I don't even know. It's very confusing. Anyway, thank you for that. Let's see, we have Christy Signer has a question. She wants to know, are we required to submit the training companion form? No, the training companion form is for you. That is for your use. So you will be using that to help track your progress and ask questions and fill things out that are relevant to your own specific adaptation needs and plans. But that's a great question. Thank you.
There's a couple of exercises you'll see at the back there. That'll be useful in future webinars. You don't have to worry about that yet.
All right, so we have 2 minutes, and Angie, it looks like you had one more poll you wanted to do.
Oh, yeah, sounds good. Let me go ahead and launch this poll. This is just for you to tell us a little bit more about what stage of climate adaptation planning your community is in. And so the poll is open, and the answers could be that you haven't started yet, that you conducted a vulnerability assessment without a health focus. Maybe you've conducted a vulnerability assessment with a health focus. Maybe you've completed an adaptation plan without a health focus. And the last option is you've completed an adaptation plan with a health focus. So please share with us what stage your community is currently at.
So you can do that quickly. It's only one click, and then we'll share that as our final send-off for today, so we know where everybody stands.
All right, I'm going to give it 5 more seconds just for anybody who's still trying to find it. It should be on your control panel under the section called polls, or actually it's probably popped up for you. It's kind of bossy. It requires you to do it before we do anything else. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close. And I'll share the results here. Okay, so it looks like 59% haven't started, 14% have conducted a vulnerability assessment, but it didn't have a health focus. 18% did have a vulnerability assessment with a health focus. And then we have 5% for those who completed an adaptation plan without a health focus, and 5% for those that completed an adaptation plan with health focus. So those 5%, those are going to be our sort of leaders. Hopefully they can share some of their experience with us. All right, we really appreciate your attention. We're going to stop right on time here, and we really look forward to talking to you next time. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, everybody. Have a great day.